All right.
What if I'm not as lazy, bad, horrible, not good enough, displeasing to people I want to be with as I thought, Cathy?
I love this topic because I think for so many of us, we're swimming in this belief system that we acquired when we were very, very young. And families pass down this dynamic from generation to generation. And we are often assigned it just because we have a quirk that reminds us of great aunt Martha or Susie, and they decide subconsciously that we are this kind of a person. And families tend to get in agreement about these things.
Mm.
So as a family, I might say to, Jody, hey, Jody, look at Rick. He's doing that thing again. Don't you agree he's like this? And there's a lot of evidence, a lot of people pushing on us, telling us that we're something. And then we grow up thinking that and we internalize that voice and it becomes the truth about ourselves. And I love Rick is so amazing at allowing most emotional freedom and helping people find these subconscious blocks and unwinding them. And I want that freedom. When we were a few minutes ago, people have been sharing some of their blocks and their beliefs, and the unlovable, the undesirable keeps coming up for me as like something that really resonates with me. There's part of me that believes that's very truly. And every time I get close to someone, that comes up, and I don't want to carry that. I want to be able to just be me with other people. So I'm Cathy Vartuli from the Intimacy Dojo, and I'm here with Rick Wilkes from Thriving Now. And we're so honored that you're here diving into this really tough topic.
Mhm. I remember the first time that I read about identity. Identity is something that we build up, but it's often not something that we are aware of consciously. And I remember like filling in a blank. I am what? And as I started listing the things that I had, I was holding as part of my identity, I am ah, lazy or I am weak. For me, by the time I had finished with getting to 16, 17 years old, I held in my identity, I am weak, skinny weak. Um, and it stayed with me for 15 years. Like I became a man and my body image because of that identity of being a weak person. And I was skinny as a rail. And compared to a lot of the other men, I didn't beef out in my teenage years, but it stayed with me. And these identities, they're held in a particular place. I'm going to have Cathy talk about that, but they're held in a part of our being that impacts how we interact, how we carry ourselves, what we expect from others. So if I hold this, oh, I am undesirable, and it's at an 8, 9, or 10. And as a coach, I will often ask people to say out loud. And if you're in a place where you can do that, if you've chosen what's your blank? What if I'm not as undesirable as I thought? If you say, I am undesirable or undesirable to men or undesirable to women or undesirable as a friend or whatever you're feeling undesirable as, and check in about how true that feels. Now, you may know something about that it's not totally true, but when I coach someone and they say it's an 8, 9, or 10, what I can tell you from experience is that if you meet someone who contradicts that part of your identity, you will respond differently. There'll be less trust. There'll be more of a flinch. They'll be like, wait a minute, what's wrong with you? And this, we're just talking about undesirability. If I hold in this unworthy, when you're negotiating for how much you're paid, when you're feeling like you want to do something that matters to you, it will change the way that you respond. Cathy, would you help us understand like a little bit of geekiness about how
Mhm.
that works inside of us?
Yeah, and I love to give you the intellectual framework because it lets you capture these things better, and it will let your cognitive, your prefrontal cortex kind of get in there and help. Because a lot of the times these beliefs are carried. Siegel does this with the brain, which I really like. He says this is the limbic system and the old part of our brain, and this is the prefrontal cortex, and this is how it's wrapped in our head. So we have this prefrontal cortex going over, but most of us store all this stuff, our identity beliefs, in our limbic system where it runs in our subconscious and it just hijacks us. It becomes the truth. And when we give you a little bit of the context, you have this, the prefrontal cortex can go in and go, oh, maybe not. Let me help you. Let's re-examine that. Because it'd be really sad if an experience when you were little, or many experiences when you were little, control you now. And for example, just to give you an example, I always worried I wasn't pretty or attractive. And I remember going to my mother at 10 and I said, Mom, am I pretty? And she said, well, at least you're smart. And I've
You're the
carried,
smart one, not
yes,
the pretty
they
one.
decided I was smart. But to my kid brain was like, oh my God, I'm not pretty. My mother won't even tell me, like, she won't even lie to me and say that I'm sort of pretty. So now when someone approaches me, I've been on OkCupid for a long time dating. If someone approaches me and says, wow, you're really pretty or you're beautiful, I don't answer them. I think they are schmoozy and lying to me, and they're immediately eliminated, which some people may think that I'm pretty some days. Like, different people have different tastes. So maybe they did think I was pretty, or maybe they were trying to break the ice. But we limit ourselves so much by those early beliefs. And so our the limbic system include that this old part of our brain includes something that's called the reticular activating system. And you don't have to remember that, but you can just remember there's a filter in your brain that is going to look for evidence that what you believe is true. So I use the example because it doesn't usually have any political or anything. If I convince you all that there are many more red cars on the road than any other car, if you really believe that, you will notice all the red cars. And your brain will be like, oh, yes, of course. How did I not notice this before? There are many more cars. Have you ever noticed, like, when you're going to purchase something, all of a sudden, like, you're thinking about buying something, you'll start seeing ads for it everywhere. Your reticular activating system is going, hey, we're interested in that. And it formed back in a time when we have a lot of information coming at us. We know we have to avoid snakes. So there's a filter on our reticular activating system that says long stick-like things are scary. So how many of you jumped at a stick in the road, like you're walking in a path and there was a stick and you jumped? Yeah, I've done that. Reticular activating system. Or if you were looking for it's berry season and you're looking for berries, your eyes would fit, the filter is there. So you're not being overwhelmed with information. The filter is actually good. However, our families are often not very awoke, not very conscious. And there's something called triangulation, which I think is really important to understand, that most families do. Most families pick someone that is bad, either bad overall or bad at certain things. So the family can displace their discomfort onto that person. So in my family, I was the black sheep. I was the bad. If something happened bad, it was my fault. And this allowed my mom and my sister to be artificially close because they could ignore any issues that were between them, and they could say, oh, look, Cathy did that bad thing again. We're going to agree together. And it lets them be artificially close. That lets them displace their bad feelings onto someone else. And it may not be a universal thing. It may be certain aspects of people are displaced that way. But it happens in many, many families that are not conscious. So if you got some of this displaced on you, it could be good or it could be bad. Often it's bad, but it could be some, like, you're really generous, or something, and you're kind of stuck with that. And we'll talk about that a little more in a minute. But because there's this pattern in so many families, a lot of us are painted with things that don't actually apply to us or may not apply all the time. I am lazy some days. Yesterday I did almost nothing. I enjoyed it very much. The week before, I was not lazy. I worked my butt off. What if I get to be what I am in the moment? I get to be lazy or not lazy or somewhere in between. I get to be smart today. And I have days when my brain I have bad brain cell days where my brain cells are just like, no, we're offline. What if we get to be in the moment what we are without having to have this locked in, cemented identity that keeps us from being who we are?
Mhm.
And I really want that freedom for you.
Okay, so we've just to bring us some context, we come together today as a circle and a community, and we're looking at things that can feel tightly held, and we're bringing just a little bit of openness. And we've definitely seen that when someone shifts from a 10, like I am needy. So if you say that out loud, I am needy.
And even if you don't think it applies, I invite you to try it on because sometimes they're hidden. Or you'd be like, oh, not needy, but something very close. So
I am needy.
I am needy.
0 to 10. How true does that feel for you? I am needy. Now, for me, it's a 4. There are times in my life where it would have been a 9. Let me tell you, if you'd met Rick at 9, I I had the same kind of needs, but because I was carrying this identity of being needy, I didn't ask for them to be met. I didn't ask for a hug or closeness. Why? I was needy. That's not a good thing. It wasn't in my family. And so, like, if it's an 8, 9, or 10 for you, we just want to pause for a moment and feel into how might that truth at a 4, at a 9, how might it be impacting how I ask for things that a good, healthy human being would want: closeness, connection, uh, food, safety, respect. Um, and what we're going to do, we're going to use this one as an example, but you can now, if you want, switch to whatever it is that you have in your label there, your blank, and check in with yourself like, oh, I am that thing. And it can be a positive, it can be a negative, like generous is the one I'm working on. I am generous. It feels like an unhealthy 9. Like
It's
what
much
that
a trap as a negative. Like you're selfish is a trap because now anything I ask for myself, it falls in that. But you are generous. That becomes almost like a whip that someone can use against you. Like, oh, you're such a generous person. I know you won't mind if I borrow your car. And you kind of like, if you've internalized it, all of a sudden, no becomes very hard to say. Like you don't have freedom any more than the person who is selfish has, even though it can be kind
mm,
of an accolade in our society.
okay. We use EFT tapping. If you're not familiar with it, and this you found our video, our community, welcome. We have a free manual at thrivingnow.com/tapping. We're not going to be teaching tapping, but you can probably, by following along with what we say, get pretty darn close and notice some shifts. If you're watching a video, I invite you to pause and take a look at that.
And I put
And
the links in the chat, and also there's one for the grounding exercises. This can bring up a lot for people. So if you need some support, those are a good place to get a little bit of like, how do I get myself out of this activated system?
do you think we're ready to do some tapping on needy?
Yeah,
And we'll
let's
use that
try it.
as an example. And one of the cool things is that we know that tapping, even though we're going to be using words related to needy, your conscious and subconscious will tie this together often into the part of it that you're focusing on. So you can change the words to fit you, or you can tap along with us with the words that we're going to use. Okay. So do we just pause for a moment, feel our body? So much of computers and things are right up here. See if you can feel your feet. That takes your nervous system's awareness all the way to the distant spiral arm of your galaxy, spiral legs. And I invite you to also let gravity do a little more of the work. So we hold ourselves up. By letting gravity let us sink into the chair a bit, let our jaw hang just a little bit more, maybe allow our shoulders to float more than being held up against gravity. We just let more of them float. And that's a good place because tapping is a whole body experience. We're really trying to reach the primitive brain and other parts of us in our core essence, our core identity extends our entire body, not just in the limbic system. That's where it's a lot of the center is, but it extends everywhere. Okay. And we start at the side of the hand, also referred to the karate chop point. Even though they convinced me I was needy.
Even though they convinced me I was needy.
And that was not a good thing.
It was not a good thing.
And I've kept this with me for a long time.
I have kept this with me for a very long time.
What if I'm not as needy as I thought?
What if I'm not as needy as I thought?
Even though I'm convinced I'm needy.
Even though I'm convinced I'm needy.
Because I have needs.
I have needs.
And they've been too much for too many people.
Well, they've been too much for too many people.
What if I'm not as needy as I thought?
What if I'm not as needy as I thought?
We go to the top of the head. I am needy.
I am needy.
Eyebrow. That has not felt good.
That has not felt good.
Side of the eye. I am too needy.
I am too needy.
Under the eye. Just ask them.
Just ask them.
Under those. Just ask that part of my brain.
Just ask that part of my brain.
And I am too needy.
I am too needy.
Hold on. Aren't I too needy?
Aren't I too needy?
The arm. I've been so convinced I'm too needy.
I've been so convinced I'm too needy.
But what if I'm not as needy as I thought?
What if I'm not as needy as I thought?
Now take a deep breath. And in the pause after tapping, there's an opportunity. What's a need that you have that maybe some people just don't have criticized you for? And I'd like you to really consider, is that too much for everyone? So like I used to need to be close. I needed someone to sit next to me or hug or cuddle. I've needed that since I was a baby. Babies need it, 4-year-olds need it, 400-year-olds need it. If you're the type of person that has that need for closeness, and not everyone does. And this was a doorway that I used, was like, oh, actually, a need for connection and closeness is a really healthy human need.
A lot of people we work with, we have to help them reopen to that. So the fact that you were open to that is beautiful.
You look at people in close-knit, well-functioning tribes, when they're cooking dinner, there's almost always physical contact. The kids, the women, the men, there's physical contact. You take Westerners and you put them around a circle, and not just during COVID, 6 feet apart. Like it wasn't a big deal for us, for many people. So now with that need, whatever it is, tap the points as you think about, well, what if that's not as needy, and try to say, if you like this idea, like, how were you told, oh, you're just too needy? What if that's not actually that needy? What if that's not actually that needy? I do need that
I do need that
to thrive.
to thrive.
And I want to thrive.
I want to thrive.
It really blamed me.
They really blamed me.
They made me feel horrible for having this need.
They made me feel horrible for having this need.
I'm going, what if I'm not as needy as, as I thought?
What if I'm not as needy as I thought?
They mocked me.
They mocked me.
Eyebrow. They criticized me.
They criticized me.
Side of the eye. They hurt me.
They hurt me.
Under the eye. They deprived me.
They deprived me.
Under the nose. They're the needy ones.
They're the needy ones.
Chin. They needed me to be someone different.
They needed me to be someone different.
Come on. I do have needs.
I do have needs.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
All the best people have needs.
All the best people have needs. I think it's true that sometimes we have needs that are not a good fit for our mother or father or our caregivers at the time. They might be exhausted. They may have shame around a certain need, or maybe it isn't a good fit. Because I have friends that are really glad to listen to me talk when I'm upset. But there's also, I have friends that have no patience for it whatsoever. And as little kids, we didn't have the option of saying, okay, well, these parents are really overwhelmed. I'm going to go to the neighbors. Like, that wouldn't have worked. We were stuck with the depth they had. And if our need was deeper than the well they had, we were going to be defined as needy because they didn't know how to give it. And there was probably some shame in not meeting their kids' needs or some frustration. So I noticed when we were tapping on the needy, I certainly have fears around that. I had the self-blame. I think we internalize this blame these other people have. And it's hard to let it go because it actually helped us at some point to internalize this. We were in this family, we're stuck in this family, and internalizing and owning this kept us safe in a way and let us identify and fit in a family where we might have been the square peg in the round hole. So can we just do a little tapping on that, Rick?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Karate tap. Even though I blame myself for being needy.
Even though I blame myself for being needy.
And I feel mad at the thought of letting go of that identity.
And I feel mad at the thought of letting go of that identity.
And a little scared.
And a little scared.
And really sad.
And really sad.
Maybe it's okay to loosen my hold on this identity.
Maybe it's okay to loosen my hold on this identity.
They called me needy.
They called me needy.
And I internalized that.
And I internalized that.
Maybe that was really smart back then.
Maybe that was really smart back then.
Top of the head. I blame myself for being needy.
I blame myself for being needy.
Eyebrow, and I don't want to let this go.
And I don't want to let this go.
Side of the eye. It's kind of uncomfortably comfortable.
It's really hard to let go.
Under the eye. And I'm not sure how I interact with them if I let go of this identity.
I don't know how I interact with them if I let go of this identity.
I don't even know how I interact with anybody if I let go of this identity.
Yeah, how do I interact with anyone if I let go of this identity?
And it's been my default filter for a lot of years.
It's been one of my default filters for a lot of years.
Collarbone. And it was really smart to have this identity back then.
And it was really smart to have this identity back then.
Under the arm, I was really clever.
I was really survival clever.
Top of the head, and maybe I can adopt more flexibility now.
And maybe I can adopt more flexibility now.
Just take a nice, gentle breath.
Oh.
And if you can, just appreciate that your system did the best it could in a situation where you didn't have a lot of options. So you were really like, you probably didn't have an option back then, like to fit in and survive. So it's okay to like, wow, I don't have to blame myself so much. Maybe I was doing a good thing back then. And now maybe I don't have to hold on so tight.
So just to kind of complete the picture, not complete, but bring another aspect. So if I ask someone, say, I am needy, and they say 0, what would it mean if you ran across someone and if you said, I am needy, and they said 0? How would that feel? Not needy at all. Like there's no part of them in their core essence that holds any needs. Now, this isn't an exact science. We're talking about, energy and how we interpret energy and situations and a lot of other things. But sometimes we can adopt like, okay, I'm not going to be needy because that feels horrible. I'm going to be independent. I am. And so I'd like to do just a little tapping on what if I'm not as independent as I thought? Because I believe that emotional freedom, as Cathy so articulated, some days, sometimes we'll feel like, oh, that luscious laziness, right? But if it's carried in our identity as a negative, then we'll avoid that. We won't have self-care that is luscious laziness, never, ever, ever. But by the same token, then you could have that could be so grotesque to you that you go to the other extreme. The primitive brain is black and white in that sense. It can go to, I must never, ever be lazy. I must never, ever be needy. I must never, ever. So we're playing with the energies here of the pole so that we can find more dynamic flexibility. Okay, karate chop. Even though I didn't want to be needy.
Even though I didn't want to be needy.
They called me needy.
They called me needy.
That felt so repulsive.
That felt so repulsive.
I ran in the other direction.
I ran in the other direction.
I have no needs.
I have no needs.
I take care of myself and everyone else.
I take care of myself and everyone else.
Top of that, I take care of myself and everyone else.
I take care of myself and everyone else.
Eyebrow, I have no needs.
I have no needs.
I am not a needy person.
I am not a needy person.
Under the eye, I am so proud of myself.
I am so proud of myself.
Unless I do not have needs.
I do not have needs.
Chin. Oh, but a part of me says I do.
Yeah, but a part of me says I do.
Hold on. It's so hard not to have any needs.
It's so hard not to have any needs.
The arm. It's so inhumane to not have any needs whatsoever.
It's so inhumane to not have any needs whatsoever.
I wonder if there's a sweet spot here.
I wonder if there's a sweet spot here.
And maybe I'm not as independent as I thought.
What if I'm not as independent as I thought?
That was the polarity for me. Like there was an inner, like every time I denied my needs, the needs became higher and my need to be independent and not rely on anyone else got higher. So the poles pull apart even within the same person. We can be in denial of a part of us, but this movement, a dynamic, multidimensional movement of I'm human. I have needs and I have the capacity to be independent. I can wipe my own butt today. And um, I can even help change a diaper if that's what I'm called upon. I've got some resource. So thriving to me says that neediness and independence, there's a place where you feel yourself, you feel resourced, you can have these things. Um,
Well, I
so,
think it's also, I love the idea of a living meditation. Where am I today?
mm,
So I'm 53 right now. I know as I get older, probably I'll need some more help as I get there, but I've also been really sick where I needed someone to help me a lot. And on a given day, I think, what if we are allowed to fluctuate? Like when I'm sick, I want someone to bring me chicken noodle soup and say, there, I know you don't feel well. And then there's other days where I can take on the world. Oh, you have to let me go find the chicken and make you soup. So what if we can just be in like almost a living meditation and say, where am I right now? How about now? What do I need now? How do I want to express myself now? And I think it's challenging to do that. But when I can do that, life's really fun. And I get to have the full range of my expression rather than being locked in. And one of the ones I wanted to do a little tapping on, someone was saying, I crave safety. And I think one of the beliefs that I hold, and I've been doing a lot of reading and studying on trauma always, because it's something that fascinates me. But they talk about how the limbic system, again, we're talking about the lower part of our brain, the older part of our brain, because it's geared to look for danger, it tends to think we're less safe than we are. And when we have a good nervous system, our nervous system is healthy, the prefrontal cortex is able to go there, it's actually not so dangerous. But for many of us, we've been raised where this part of our system is also aware there's a lot of danger. So it's like danger, danger. And what if I am safer than I thought? What if I'm not as unsafe as I thought? And I just love to do a little bit of tapping on that, because for many of us, we carry this sense of vulnerability and being not understood that from childhood is very powerful. Some of us had blessings of having a parent that really got us, or a safe environment. A lot of us didn't. We weren't seen. We were kind of, our family was rigid or toxic, and we had to struggle with that. And we carry that forward when we might be much safer now. So, karate chop, what if I'm not as unsafe as I thought?
what if I'm not as unsafe as I thought?
I
Hmm.
can't possibly consider that.
Doesn't feel safe to consider that.
I need to hold on to this fear.
I need to hold on to this fear.
It served me really well back then.
It served me really well back then.
But what if I'm not as unsafe as I thought?
But what if I'm not as unsafe as I thought?
Part of me likes that idea a lot.
Part of me relaxes amongst that idea a lot.
And part of me feels really nervous.
And part of me does feel really nervous.
Top of that, I really want to feel safe.
I really want to feel safe.
I crave feeling safe.
I crave feeling safe.
And part of me believes I am very unsafe.
And a part of me believes I'm really unsafe.
Under the eye, it's hard to relax when that part of my brain is active.
It is hard to relax when that part of my brain is hyperactive.
Under the nose, hey, limbic system,
Hey, limbic system,
thank you for watching out for me.
thank you for watching out for me.
You've been on hyper alert for decades.
You've been on hyper alert for decades.
Under the arm, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Top of head, thank you for watching out for me.
Thank you for watching out for me.
Eyebrow, you got programmed when I was really little.
Oh, you got programmed when I was little and eons ago.
Side of the eye, what if we could upgrade the software a little bit?
What if we could upgrade the software a little bit?
Under the eye, and maybe even some of the hardware.
Maybe even some of the hardware.
Under the nose, what if things are very different now?
What if things are very different now?
Chin, what if I'm not as unsafe as I thought?
What if I'm not as unsafe as I thought?
Collarbone, what if I can relax just a little bit more?
What if I can relax just a little bit more?
Under the arm and reevaluate the threat that might exist right here and now.
And reevaluate the threat that might exist right here, right now.
Top of the head. What if I'm actually safer than I thought?
What if I'm actually safer than I thought?
Just take a deep breath. And this may bring up a lot for you or may not bring up that much, but we're just dropping some ideas in there and your brain can chew on them. And if it comes up with stuff, that's great. We're going to take volunteers in just a couple minutes. Oh, I love the authority figure too. We can tap on. I'd love to tap on that. But if you're noticing things, percolating even over the next couple of days, I love to leave a notepad and pen by my bed because sometimes when I'm just drifting off to sleep or I'm just waking up or in the middle of the night, I'll have this epiphany. And again, a lot of this is very slippery. Our subconscious Teflon coats it, so we'll squirt away and it doesn't have to deal with it. Because if you can't grab it, you can't change it, and your subconscious thinks it's doing the right thing. If you can jot it down so that someplace you can read it and do a little tapping on it, even shifting that trajectory a little bit can be really powerful. When we're not flooded with stress chemicals all the time, our body gets to heal, our system gets to relax, our neural pathways get to change.
I'm feeling drawn to do that. They told me I was, or the authority figure.
Yeah. Would you like to?
Yeah, so it can be uncomfortable. So do this if it feels like a yes to you. If this label, this part of your identity came from people in authority, and when you're small, anyone bigger is authority. It can come from a boss. Sometimes we give lovers authority over our identity, you know. And see if you can hear or see their face. It may, when we do that, it usually activates our body more. We do that because that's when that part of us is activated. The tapping on the comfort points can be more effective. Okay. So as you tune into them, their face, their words, you're noticing 0 to 10, like how intense it feels to you. You might close your eyes and just tap the points for a moment. Sometimes we don't have the words. So we'll do that first.
And notice what's happening in your body. I notice my jaws are tightening up, my toes are wanting to curl a little bit. So just notice your body if you can while you're imagining this person in front of you.
Okay. And sometimes it can now help to just freeze them, like press the pause button on them. And imagine Cathy and I with you, both of us, even though they told me that.
Even though they told me that,
They are so sure that they're right.
they are so sure they are right.
Just ask them.
Just ask them.
What if they're not?
What if they're not?
Top of that. Oh, I couldn't question them back then.
I couldn't question them back then.
Eyebrow. If they said I wasn't worth doing that for,
If they said I wasn't worth doing that for,
side of the eye, I couldn't question that.
I couldn't question that.
Under the eye, I couldn't question my unworthiness.
I couldn't question my unworthiness.
Under the nose, I couldn't question any of that.
I couldn't question any of that.
And if they said I was needy,
If they said I was needy,
hold on, I had to look like I got the message.
I had to look like I had to look like I got the message.
Or else.
Or else.
I am sick and fucking tired of it.
I am sick and fucking tired of it.
But they told me.
They told me.
And they're always right.
They are always right. It must be the truth.
Eyebrow. Yeah, it must be the truth.
It must be the truth.
Side of the eye. They seem so certain.
They seem so certain.
Under the eye. They were so repetitive.
They were so repetitive.
Who knows? They told me over and over in so many ways.
They told me over and over in so many ways.
And yeah, and I really want them as the experts on who I am.
I really want them as the experts as who
Oh,
I
they
am.
knew me so well.
They knew me so well.
The army. I haven't changed at all since then.
I haven't changed at all since then.
Love it. Oh, I totally should leave them as the experts on who I am.
I should totally leave them as the experts as who I
Or
am.
maybe not.
Or maybe not.
Notice that we throw in some humor, some ridiculousness, and some reality because our primitive brain takes authority as the author of who we are, what we can do, what we're capable of, what we're incapable of, authority over us. Our primitive brain understands authority over us. If the king says you're the jester, then you're the funny one.
You become the jester.
Right. It if you're the smart one, not the pretty one, then you'll focus on the smarts. And your energy, when you're feeling pretty and someone recognizes that, you'll be like, oops, and your energy will go boom. I see this with people, they when you're called something that doesn't fit something that you embrace as part of your energy and your own innate beauty as a human being, then that part of your system will say, uh-oh, and it'll turn off the light. It'll do things like that. Not always. And I believe that for many of our clients, we've done so much personal work that right now what we're doing is getting in there with these sticky, icky, gross, sick, and I do use F-bombs on occasion, very mindfully. I think if there's any place where you're sick and fucking tired of something, it's where someone else who knew you as a child and didn't even really know you and didn't know what mattered to your heart, didn't acknowledge or have the resource or the mental health to be able to be a good parent, a good teacher, a good lover, a good friend, and or good friends, and they laid something on you. And for some reason, it went in through that authority channel, like, oh, this person, and it gets stuck. And this is why I wonder if I'm not as undesirable as I've always thought. Wouldn't that be interesting? And when you add some curiosity and wonder to this process, like, I wonder, not forcing it, just like I wonder, I'm curious. I've got part of me is a little curious. maybe maybe I'm not as butt ugly as they called me, right? And that's when your system, I believe, also has memories that it's filtered out that also can start seeping in. Like,
Mhm.
you know, my friend, I had a friend, and they looked at me in a way that I would look at a pretty person.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, interesting. Huh. And that's where you can start feeling the tight grip loosening in your core. You might
I
feel
really,
warm.
yeah, and I really love if you have some of these, you remember how old you were when you had the belief instilled. I love pulling up old photos of yourself if you have them, because it's really easy. Our brains always feel like they're very wise and they have lots of experience because it's the most experience we've ever had in our life whenever we have it. But I look back at little pictures of me when I was 10. I was like, this was just a little kid, and actually she was kind of adorable. And so the prettiness, I'm like, wow, mom, why couldn't you see I was pretty? Or at least say, you have lovely hair or something like that. But looking back at those photos may give you a lot more empathy and connection to that little being that was taking on these, not this like identity that was being thrown at them by people around them. So I really love doing that.
So we're coming close to our 7 minute break. Is there something that you'd like to tune us to for our time of quiet and taking care of
Yeah, I
ourselves?
just like to do a little bit of tapping, allowing our system to consider new things so that we can take that into the break. So if you'd like to tap along, nice deep breath. Karate chop. Even though I've lived with this identity for a very long time,
Even though I've lived with this identity for a very long time,
and I feel really attached to it,
and a part of me feels really attached to it.
I kind of built myself around it,
And I kind of built myself around it,
like a plant on a trellis.
like a plant on a trellis.
What if I could find new ways of being?
What if I could find new ways of being?
What if I could consider different information
What if I could consider different information now
and allow memories of different experiences?
and allow memories of different experiences?
Top of the head, I don't have to rip the trellis out.
I don't have to rip the trellis out.
Eyebrow, but I may not have to cling to it so tightly.
Maybe I don't have to cling to it so tightly.
Side of the eye, what if I have chances to grow in different directions?
What if I have chances to grow in different directions?
Under the eye, who do I want me to be?
Hmm. Who do I want me to be?
Under the nose, am I allowed to vary day by day and moment by moment?
I want to be allowed to vary from day to day, moment to moment.
Chin, what if I can follow my sun?
What if I could follow my son
Collarbone, and not cling to this old rusty trellis.
and not cling to this old rusty trellis
Under the arm that someone else put here for me.
someone else put here for me?
Top of that, I'm really curious who I might turn out to be.
Hmm. I'm really curious who I already am.
Yeah, nice. Just take a nice deep breath. And we're going to go into the break, but one of the reasons I think this break is so important, you can get a chance to take care of your body, which helps you I think help is very good, nourishing, helping our body realize that we're taking care of it, that it's healing. But also, we're still in this container. We're still in the safe container that we all built. So you can kind of step away, but you can come back. I'll be monitoring the chat. And this is a great time to journal if something's coming to you or share in the chat. Let stuff kind of percolate and come up while you have a little bit of this quiet time, because sometimes the greatest epiphanies will come when you just have a little bit of space inside the container to like just let things like seep in from all the tapping we've done. So I really encourage you to, if that feels right to you, jot some things down, because again, they're Teflon. They'll slip away if you don't put them in physical form.
Okay, so we're going to pause the recording, and if you're listening to the replay, invite you to pause now and take this 7 minutes for yourself too.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We're going to open up the circle for volunteers. If you have already read the consent to record, then you're welcome to raise your hand. If you've not read that, you can quickly jump to email and check that out. But we do record the call, and you don't have to have your video on. But I wanted just to be clear that the video is going to be made available to the community, including our community out on various social media sites. So keep that in account. We're still going to be monitoring the chat, and as you see, we've been interweaving that into the tapping that we do.
Yeah, and if you
You can
have
raise,
stuff coming up that you're not ready to deal with on video, like you don't want it to be shown to other people, Rick has the Thriving Now Circle, thrivingnow.com/circle, and a large number of those calls are not recorded. So you can bring anything to those calls. They're amazing. I was an active member for like 13 years or 12 years or something like that. And so you can dive into that if you want.
You can raise your hand under, on computers, it's under reactions. You'll see a bunch of emojis, but down at the very bottom is raise hand. If you're on a computer and you don't see that, you may have an old version of Zoom, in which case click participants, it might be found there. If you're on a a pad or a phone, it's usually under ... that you can do that. And it's really okay. We've got plenty that you've been giving us. We're going to watch the list of anyone, if anyone raises their hands. We've got people from around the world joining us now, and others that'll be on on the replay. I appreciate you being here, Cathy, so that we can engage with these energies and allow people, like, things around identity are a big deal, and it takes a while to feel like you can be in community and have that out there. So that's one of the things I love about tapping, is that it's a wonderful group activity. It's been shown to be even more effective in groups over the 20 plus years that we've been doing this. Not just group tapping. There's a power in hearing and recognizing what's true for someone else. As you look at the list, Cathy, of the things that people have shared, is there one of those qualities? We talked about lazy and bad, and but I'm noticing some of the unlovable, unwanted.
Yeah, the
They have a different
undesirable.
feel. Yeah, undesirable. That has a different place in our identity, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like it takes us from being a human to being lower status. It's a drop in our primitive brain that says you are no status, you are low status. And our primitive brain understands the caste system, whether it's the legal law of the land, it exists in corporations, it exists in junior high school playgrounds, it exists in a lot of places where people are jostling for authority, and those things can get really impactful for us. Um, would you be willing um, to lead us in one of the undesirable, unlovable, or
Absolutely.
unwanted
We don't have
words?
any hands raised right now, so
Yeah,
feel free to raise
great.
your hand. But yeah, for just to kind of give context, I didn't think I was very lovable. And so as I was making friends, even if they were trying to meet me as equal, I would start doing things to try to earn that love or earn their attention. And it wasn't always a generous thing. It was like I have felt like I had to do things for them to be willing to put up with me, which really kind of skewed my relationships. It made it very hard to have equal relationships when I was constantly like, no, 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 I have to earn your friendship. I have to, and that got in the way a lot. So I think just allowing a little shift around that is very powerful. But the desirability or lovability, that can often go very, very deep into our being. So be gentle with yourself as you tap on this. I invite you to just
Could you
be gentle.
weave in some of the evidence that builds up? Like
Yeah.
as soon as this is implanted, it starts attracting lots of evidence.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and just I taught people not to value me, like my behavior, because I would like, oh, let me buy lunch, let me do this for you. Like it taught people that I don't value myself. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was trying to take care of them so that I would have a friendship. And
Yeah.
so that gave me even more evidence that I wasn't desirable. So karate chop, even though part of my identity is that I'm not very desirable.
Even though part of my identity is that I'm not very desirable.
And that's really hard to carry around.
And that is really hard to carry around.
I'm wondering if there's any way I can shift this.
I'm wondering if there's any way I can shift this,
Even though this belief is so heavy in my body.
even though this belief is so heavy in my body.
And my poor survival brain is always scared because of that.
My poor survival brain is always scared because of it.
I'd really like to find a way to see myself as lovable and desirable.
I'd really love to find a way to see myself as lovable and desirable.
Top of the head, oh, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Eyebrow, what if that's scary?
What if that what if that is scary?
Side of the eye, what if I don't know how to deal with people wanting me?
What if I don't know how to deal with people wanting me?
Under the eye, it feels safer to not be lovable.
It feels safer to not be lovable. It feels
Under the
so
nose,
familiar.
yeah, under the nose, it's very familiar.
It's so familiar,
Chin, but it's also so lonely.
but it's also so lonely.
Collarbone, what if I can be desirable and lovable to people that are good fits?
What if I can be lovable and desirable to people that are a good fit?
Under the arm, not to everyone.
Definitely not for everyone.
Top of the head, that doesn't feel good either.
That doesn't feel good either.
Eyebrow, what if I can just be me?
What if I can just be me
Side of the eye, and allow some people to select in as liking me.
and allow some people to select in as actually liking me?
Under the eye, and some of them may even love and desire me.
And some may even love and desire me.
Under the nose, and if it's mutual, I can engage.
And if it's mutual, I can engage.
Chin, that feels a little better than a black or white, desirable or undesirable.
It feels better than a black and white.
Yeah, collarbone. What if I could just let myself be with individual people?
What if I could let myself be with individual people
Under the arm and see if they like me or not.
and see if we like each other or not?
Yeah, top of the head. That's a new experiment. I might try it.
That's a new experiment. I might try that.
Just take a gentle breath. And just realize all we need to do is if we have a vacuum sealed belief, if we can just let a little air and light in there, it may not shift the whole thing all at once, but it allows new evidence to come in and it gives it a chance to reevaluate. It may not be that I've had some 5-minute miracles where I was like, my brain was blown up and I was like, oh, that was silly. I never should have believed that. Most of the time, EFT doesn't do that. Most of the time, we're letting in some new considerations, some new evidence, and allowing that to just start, I wonder if I can shift this. I wonder if I have to carry this around.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to work with our volunteer?
Yes, and I think was there another hand raised before that? Someone private messaged me. Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Yeah, Caroline had her hand raised before. So can I do a quick one with Caroline and you can do a quick one with Jim? Okay. Mm-hmm. So Caroline, I'm going to ask you to unmute. And Caroline had messaged earlier too. And your name's up there, so it's okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi Caroline. What's
Hi.
coming up for you?
So what you just did, that exercise is so me. So I have done a lot of work with you and some other mechanisms, and I was feeling really good. And then I was injured on the job and everything went back to where it was. So that the struggle of there's some medical issues now and just not feeling well about who I am.
Yeah, and just to kind of normalize it for anyone, we can do a lot of work on ourselves and feel really good, and then something can happen and we kind of get reset and it can feel like, oh my God, I'm back at square one. It's not really true, but the brain can feel like, oh my God, like all this stuff comes up again. So what are you feeling in your body as we're doing these tappings?
Frustration and wanting to get back to where I was.
Okay. All right. And is there a particular belief? Is there some thought in your head as you're feeling this frustration and the wanting?
Not feeling worthy.
Okay. Karate chop. Even though part of me believes I'm not worthy.
Even though part of me believes I'm not worthy.
Look how hard I worked.
Look how hard I worked.
And I came so far.
And I came so far.
And here I am back at square one.
And here I am back at square one.
Damn it.
Damn it.
No wonder I feel so frustrated.
No wonder I feel so frustrated.
No wonder I worry that I'm not worthy.
No wonder I worry that I'm not worthy.
Top of the head, that feels so heavy in my body.
That feels so heavy in my body.
Eyebrow, my poor brain is trying to figure out what happened.
My poor brain is trying to figure out what happened.
Side of the eye, I worked so very hard.
I worked so very hard.
Under the eye, I made some really good progress.
I made some really good progress.
Under the nose, I let myself feel proud of that.
I let myself feel proud of that.
Chin, and then bam, I'm right back where I started.
And then bam, I am right back where I started.
Collarbone, maybe I'm not quite where I started.
But maybe I'm not quite back where I started.
Under the arm, I had the experience of healing.
I have had the experience of healing.
Top of the head, I have good muscles for that now.
I have good muscles for that now.
Eyebrow, and I have EFT.
And I have EFT
Side of the eye in a circle I can work with.
and a circle I can work with.
Under the eye, maybe I'm not back right at the beginning.
Maybe I'm not back right at the beginning.
Under the nose, and I can feel this frustration.
And I can feel this frustration.
Chin, I can just let it burn in my chest.
I can just let it burn in my chest.
Collarbone, and I can tap and heal.
And I can tap and heal.
Under the arm, part of me is burning to feel better.
Part of me is burning to feel better.
Top of the head, and maybe I can use that energy to help me get there.
And maybe I can use that energy to help me get there.
Take a gentle breath. What are you noticing?
It's not burning as hard. It's not as present.
Okay. And one of the
Of what?
things, yeah, great. A lot of times when we have strong feelings, we want to get away from them. But if we can just feel them for a few minutes, often they change or dissipate. And you have muscles to deal with that now that you probably didn't several years ago. So if you can notice, yes, you have, you rolled back down the hill, but you've already got the muscles to get up the hill, and you know where the pitfalls are and how to ask for help. So I really can relate to the frustration of, oh my God, I thought I'd done this already. What's going on? And if you can, just be gentle with yourself and realize life sometimes puts us back, but the skills and all the strength that you've built, the courage that you built up over time, that's all there still. You earn that, and that they don't get to take away from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's really great for people to know that they're not alone when this happens. So, and I love the roses behind you. They're gorgeous.
Thank you.
Go ahead and meet you.
Mhm.
All right.
All right. Jim, you should be able to unmute. There you go. Welcome.
Hi. So I'm grateful that I get to be picked on, and I chosen. Been picked on enough.
Even though I was picked on.
Yeah, I didn't want to just put my hand up right away and hog it, so I waited quite a while, and I hope that other people are just not wanting to raise their hand right away, as opposed to wanting to and not knowing where the button is. So anyway, I have found that one of my core issues revolves around that my parents didn't realize I was born blind, and until I was 3. So I lost critical development from ages, newborn to 3. And it makes my brain just doesn't work normally. And some people think and have, made fun of me, like, and even said that, I'm retarded or whatever. But it's far from the case. But I can tell by the way my brain works and doesn't work, comparing to classmates growing up and all, that other people they think differently. And I think they can, their brain just works better in certain ways. And so I just seem like a little slow or something. And so I have been treated poorly throughout my life and made to feel inadequate, inferior, but yet I'm quite the opposite in so many ways, but I still can't seem to get through with that. And like I had said in the chat earlier, I ask a lot of questions because I also, being mistreated, felt that people were not safe. So I kept them at distance, but then as a kind of a knee-jerk reaction to get close to people is ask a lot of questions to be part of things.
Okay. Thank you. I heard you say inadequate, inferior. If you go back to our focus, did you come with a focus for what if I'm not as blank as I thought? Is there a word you want to put in there for our tapping? Inadequate, inferior.
Smart.
What if I'm not as well? I'd like to use one of the. Is that what if I'm not as smart as I thought?
Yeah. What if I'm not as smart as I think I am?
Okay. And where would you like to land? Where would you like to? So I'm hearing that you think that you're really smart, and that may fit the category of, well, they told me I was inadequate and inferior, so I've gone to this place where I'm really holding on to I am smart. And you might want to soften that as part of your identity. Where would you like to land?
Yeah, interesting point is I'm a problem solver for a living, and I'm really good at it. And I'm very attached to that. I am really good at this, but I don't think I'm as great as I think I am. And to help me like get off of my high horse and sort of be on a level playing field will help.
But you're a problem solver and you're good at it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I play with this?
Sure.
Can we all play with this one, right? Because it
Please.
goes to like, maybe there's a part of your identity that you've been holding on to that makes it feel like it's sometimes hard to relate. Even though I'm a really good problem solver.
Even though I'm a really good problem solver.
As a kid, they thought I was inferior.
As a kid, they thought I was inferior.
And my brain works differently.
My brain works differently.
I really like being able to solve problems.
I really love problem solving.
I really love problem solving.
It's fun.
And I love the view from the high horse.
I do enjoy that.
You can see so much from the high horse.
I have built a very high horse.
Top of the head. And feeling so smart makes me also feel.
And feeling so smart also makes me feel separate.
Yeah. Eyebrow. I do have my smarts.
I do have my smarts.
Side of the eye. My brain works differently.
My brain works differently.
Into the eye. It developed differently.
It developed differently.
And those, I really like being a problem solver.
I really like being a problem solver.
Chin. And I don't want to hold myself separate.
And I don't want to hold myself separate.
Hold on. What if I embraced how good I am?
What if I embraced how good I was?
The arm. What if I really embraced how good I am at this?
What if I really embraced how good I am at this?
Up the head. And also felt for where other people are really good at their thing.
And also felt for where other people are good at their thing.
Smarts come in so many flavors.
Smarts come in so many flavors like ice cream.
Yeah, eyebrow. Cathy Smarts.
Cathy Smart.
Side of the eye. Oh, there's so many flavors.
So many flavors.
Under the eye. And not everyone is problem solver smart.
And not everyone is problem solver smart.
Under the nose. And I deeply and completely accept them anyway.
And I deeply and completely accept them anyway.
And even though they may feel inferior.
Even though they may feel inferior.
Hold on. Even though they may feel inadequate.
Even though they may feel inadequate.
Under the arm. I'd like to embrace the tapestry of smarts.
I'd like to embrace the tapestry of smarts.
And feel a part of it.
And feel part of it.
How does that resonate in your energy?
Yeah, that works good because I end up becoming critical of not only myself and others, and that if somebody doesn't figure out something that I think is so simple, then I think they're stupid. And then I'm condescending, and the energy around it isn't healthy.
Right a chop. Even though I've called them stupid.
Even though I called them stupid.
In my head and sometimes out loud.
In my head and oftentimes out loud.
What if they're not as stupid as I thought?
What if they're not as stupid as I thought?
I'm so good at problem solving.
I'm so good at problem solving.
Eyebrow. I'm really divergently good at problem solving.
I'm really divergently good at problem solving.
The eye. And some people are better at other things.
And some people are better at other things.
under the eye. Some people are less critical.
Some people are less critical.
Well, that hasn't been a gift of mine.
Hasn't been a gift of mine.
Jen, I'm wondering if I could accept more into my life.
I'm wondering if I
Diversity?
can accept more diversity into my life.
Hold on. What if they're not as stupid as I thought?
What if they're actually smarter than I thought?
What if I'm not as smart as I thought?
What if I'm not as smart as I thought?
What if smart isn't binary?
What if smart isn't binary?
And it's much more diverse than I thought.
And it's much more diverse than I thought.
How does that fit your system?
Yeah, that works. I think that the smart people are the ones that don't speak up that much, and they let the stupid ones show that they're not as smart as they think.
That's a belief. I again, like, if you're, one of the reasons I asked, like, where do you want to stand? So there's the personal thing, which is, what if I'm not as smart as I think? And I believe that when we ask that question, it's a very vulnerable question, because oftentimes we set ourselves aside, we give ourselves status over others, especially if we came from inadequacy, or, we were divergent. There's a term, neurodiversity, and people whose brains developed differently than others, in your case, because of your childhood vision. But for whatever reason, innate or trauma or whatever, like, I used to hold on to smart like it was my life raft, right? And so here I was standing at the top of a mountain of intelligence with a life raft. Talk about a stupid metaphor, right? I've got my life raft. I am the smart one. And it really does. It created this dynamic. And so sometimes when we hold on to something that is true, like, if you're a great, like, super duper problem solver, and I chose like super duper, like superhero level problem solver, you can ride your high horse all around. Just don't trample people. Don't look down on them, and look for and open to the diversity. I mean, emotional intelligence is not something that I had on my radar screen at all growing up, because I was around people that didn't put any attention on it. And I'm not as intelligent emotionally as I would love to be. I think it's something that we can cultivate, just like problem solving ability is something that we can cultivate. And so when we tap and we honor, like, how do I really want to hold this identity? The reason I think about a circle, Jim, is, and I invite you to start thinking in terms of, like, your place in the circle. If we as a community need a problem solver, your innate capacity is really helpful. If we need somebody who can hold a kind of compassion and empathy for someone who's maybe their brain hasn't recovered from an accident or something, and they just have a really hard time tracking, their executive function is malfunctioning. Maybe somebody else in the circle who's been down that road, or has a natural kind of compassion, empathy, and patience. And I'm not looking at myself here. I have more of it than I used to, but I still aspire to that. And we look at the circle and we say, wow, emotional gifts, spiritual gifts, intelligence, problem solving, the ability to hold space quietly, to allow people to be in their reality. Wow. And so this is where, tap on, maybe I'm not as smart as I am, and maybe I'm really good, like, holding the identity of problem solving as a gift. I cultivate it. I'm really good at it. And sometimes when when I see something in the world, it's easy for me, but it's not for someone else. It's easy for someone to see something that maybe we can't. Um, is that helpful to you, Jim, where you are?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's extremely helpful. And right when you were mentioning in the beginning the circle thing, I had an image that popped into my mind that instead of like, oh, I'm kind of like you were saying, I got my mountain peak and my life raft and my horse up there too.
And the horse in the life raft.
Yeah, is that I'm really good at some things, but I'm not really good at all things. And
Yeah.
I suck at a lot of things that most people are so good at. And that's where that inferiority thing and all this, stuff comes from. So the image that popped into my mind when you were explaining this is that, like, holding the circle is like, okay, well, I've got this area in the circle that I can contribute to the community.
I can contribute.
And other people have these things, and therefore, and none of them are better than the other. They're all parts of the wheel that are all necessary. And this way I can value other people for their skills, and we're all on the same playing field. It's all a level playing field.
Thank you, Jim. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ecosystem is a core to the emotional world, is to be aware that, is it the sun or the water that's more important to life on Earth? Well, it wouldn't be life on Earth without either. And I really appreciate co-creating with you, Cathy, for all of these years. And we're not the same. We have intelligences that mesh and blend, and our identities and all of these things. I'd like to open it for closing, bringing us to a close for today, to you, if you would.
Yeah. And I just want to thank you all for being here. So Rick and I think we're more powerful teaching together because we have slightly different perspectives, and we're shining our little flashlights at different angles so that it helps people see things from different perspectives. And then each of you that step forward or share in the chat, you're helping people see things from a different perspective. And that is so powerful and so beautiful. So we're here as a circle, helping each other heal and bringing insight, and also modeling courage. These are tough topics. We're not picking the light, oh, let's entertain ourselves on a Sunday. Yeah. We're like picking the core deep things that even a little air in those, a little bit of space in those starts unfurling you like a really tightly flower bud that's all really tight. It just lets it start opening up, and then the beauty of your unique being starts showing. The more you open up, the more beautiful you are, the more beautiful you smell. Like, people are going to be naturally attracted to you being authentic. And so I love that we come together as a group to do this. To me, it's incredibly spiritual and incredibly touching. And if you are noticing things, realize that it often feels a little bit worse when we first start tuning in. To use the analogy, if you're wearing a shoe that's too tight and your foot has gone numb, when you take the shoe off, initially it's like, oh, thank God. And like, oh, wait, that really hurts. Like, you get all the pricks and stuff, but you're actually doing something really good for your system. So if you're noticing frustration or things coming up, just realize you're going through the healing process. You're opening this bud up and creating more space for you to be you. And that's a beautiful gift to give the world. I'm just really honored to be here with all of you. And Rick, thank you for creating this space.
Our inbox is open, support@thrivingnow.com, and the community center at thrivingnow.center is a place where we continue and we engage and we touch on these things. There's a new exploration that we're doing on concepts for thriving, as well as the real skills workshops. You are so invited to come, click the sign up and join. You're welcome to use a pseudonym if that's what feels good to you. So yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Cathy.
Meet
And bye for now.
Bye, everyone.